Welcome to the Ear for Fear podcast, the horror movie podcast that boils and ghouls and dead alike are screaming for. Don't be afraid to listen as Rick and the Creeps bore their way into your brains, slither down onto your arteries, into your still beating hearts.
Hi, welcome to the Ear for Fear podcast. This is the podcast that talks about scary movies or movies trying to be scary. I'm Rick, and joined by, I got a guest here today, a special guest, my cousin, Scott Whisenhunt.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for coming on out, buddy.
Wasn't sure if I was supposed to have like a catchphrase or something.
Did you have anything cool? Just come up with something off the top of your head?
Ew.
Hey, man, well, welcome. This is the first time you've been out here. You know what's funny, man, is I didn't even know that you were into horror movies, and I don't know why. We've been cousins a long time, and I don't know. I guess we don't. You know how with family, it's like a lot of time passes by, and it goes, and then all of a sudden you're 40 and I'm 50 or whatever you are these days. And I never, we've hung out a little bit, but not a lot over the years. And it's like, I had no idea. No idea you were such a huge fan of just the movies in general.
Yeah. I think until maybe you came out to a couple of shows. Yeah. And then you were doing our shirts that I didn't even know that you were into movies and horror movies and stuff.
Yeah. And that was a while ago.
That
was like, damn, I forgot about, because you have a band, and you guys are kind of like you guys did some music for a while, did you do a couple albums?
We did a couple albums.
And then you kind of took a break, and now you guys are thinking about getting back into it?
Yeah, we're it's just doing other projects or doing something different.
Yeah. Well, now you're recently married, and then you got
hard to find time for that kind of stuff.
And then you got a little one on the way, so there's going to be even less time.
Yeah, keep thinking.
I don't want to scare you, man. But again, man, welcome. Today, you and I are going to be doing David Cronenberg's 1983 Videodrome. This one is a little different, I guess. I think most of Cronenberg's stuff is out there. He's got a few tame ones. I would say maybe the Fly or the Dead Zone.
Right.
You know,
there's nothing controversial or, maybe the Fly has maybe some fetish.
But I mean, but that's really is it? I'm not gonna say a true remake of the Vincent Price The Fly, but maybe a little on the. Because I'll be honest, I never saw Vincent Price's The Fly.
I didn't either.
So I don't know if it's a true remake or if they just, if there's some similarities. I don't know.
Probably the basic. I haven't seen it. I think it's like the basic plot line maybe, and then it's just Cronenberg's version.
And then his version
there.
of
it.
But Dead Zone, which is a great movie, which I love, I don't think that's too out there.
No, not at all.
But his other stuff, I remember...
tame.
Shivers and The Brood. Naked Lunch, I saw one time, and oh my God, dude, that one, I hadn't, when I saw it, and I can't remember when that came out. I want to say it came out in late 80s or early 90s, and I saw it, I'm like, this looks kind of interesting, and so I rented it from a video store, I didn't hear anything about it, and I watched it, dude, it was out there. It was weird. Yeah. It was weird. I almost think I almost turned it off towards the end. Like, it was so bizarre.
And it keeps going.
Yeah,
it keeps getting weirder.
Yeah,
there's a funny clip from The Simpsons, like early on when it's Bart and Milhouse and I can't remember the other two kids. They go off on their own on spring break, and they go into a movie and it's Naked Lunch, and they come out and Nelson's like, I can see two things wrong with that title. That was one of the gags for a long time with that movie.
That's funny. They actually talked about that.
Yeah,
in the Simpsons episode?
Because I think they thought it was this bunch of little kids on spring break. They're going into like a nudie movie or something that, and they're coming all confused and distraught. Like,
yeah. No, dude, it's definitely it was. I saw it the one time, man. That was plenty for me. I think, like I was telling you, I think Cronenberg is definitely an acquired taste. I can honestly tell you I have not acquired a taste for him at all. I know he's got a new movie out, and I forgot what it's called. But
Crimes of the Future.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you watch it?
No, it was playing at Tower Theater downtown. I had COVID during that time.
Oh,
It
okay.
was because it was just like really limited. I think.
Yeah.
And I was for 2 weeks. I didn't do anything, so
Yeah.
I missed it. I wanted to see it. It's kind of his return to body horror because he hasn't been doing that since like History of Violence and all those movies after that. He's done violent stuff, but not the body horror stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Are you a fan of the body horror?
Yeah.
Are you?
I'm a fan of the special effects of those films.
Okay.
It depends on what it is. I love anything where people crafted and they put things together and they're just goofy stuff. Or
I would agree with that part of it. There's some body horror that I'm just not a fan of, like the Hostels or like even some Saw or like I never saw Human Centipede, but people will just like I'm just like I'm just not into stuff like that. It just it makes me feel very uncomfortable, and I'm sure that is the intent, but I don't like feeling that way.
No, not at all. It depends on what it is. It's like just. I don't know, people start getting into subgenres and they start being a fan of things. It's like,
true.
Well, how can a Cronenberg, some of these earlier films, how can they even compare to some of these other films? Well, all they have in common is one thing where that's kind of the smallest aspect of it. You know?
Yeah. I guess I would agree with that. Yeah, because there's a lot of like when horror was like, let's just say that I don't know what the height of horror was, but let's just say for just shits and giggles, it was sometime in the 80s. Let's call it 82 or something like that. All of a sudden it was like you had you had horror, and then you had a couple of the subgenres, like say a ghost or a zombie. But then it's like now it's like you got like a zombie would have like a couple other like almost a subgenre from that subgenre, and it's like anymore it's almost, I don't know. To me it's kind of become a little convoluted with some of them. To me, it's a ghost story, or it's what you said, like a body horror. It's a slasher. It's this. I don't need you to take a slasher and then put like 3 or 4 subgenres. I don't need that.
Right, and I'm not seeing it because it's in the subgenre. I'm seeing it because there's like an interesting story or an interesting take on something.
Exactly.
It's like people who are really big fans of something. It's like, well, I'm just a fan of movies in general. So.
Yes.
And I think that's a lot of stuff that's missing from, you said, like Hostel and Saw and Human Centipede. I'm not singling those out ones, but a lot of more modern horror movies are missing the subtext. They're missing the commentary, which is what horror films were really exploring, starting from like George Romero and then going up through the 70s and the 80s and Cronenberg. That's what they're doing. They're exploring different ideas and different subject matter. They're just using horror as the vessel because you can do more with that than you can with just a straight drama. You can explore things in a kind of an out there sense, and you can't do that in just a regular drama.
Well, you can't. I think
you can. You just can't do it visually and in an analogous way. I think is what you can do with horror.
Well, I think too. I think with horror, it opens, like something will happen in a movie and it'll become controversial, right? Then and they've done it on purpose to get people to talk about maybe an underlining issue. So they use the horror movie as kind of the base, right?
Exactly.
And then they get everyone else to talk about it, and then it's done its job. And maybe you got people to open their eyes to, other. I would say Videodrome is kind of that. They Live had a message like that as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. All those. That's what those horror reminds me of sci-fi, because they're both kind of vessels to explore social commentary and different ideas and stuff. It's not just about Star Trek. It's not just about one thing. It's about all these different ideas.
Well, I think that's the problem with the people that are like that are not into, say, let's just say horror. It's because I don't think they I don't know. I'm not going to say they don't understand it. Yeah, I guess I will say that. Maybe they just don't understand what's happening. They take it for surface value. Oh, well, it's just teenagers getting killed. Okay, yeah, sure, that is happening in the movie, but that's not all that's not all that's happening.
Right,
there's other
yeah.
messages and that they're issues they're trying to address. I've said this before in one of the previous episodes. It's like, why do you think that I'm not going to say every horror movie, but a lot of the horror movies, there's always a final girl. Well, why do you think that is? Because we've stripped, the powers away from women forever. I mean, I'm not going to I won't get all political, but I mean, and I'm not going to really talk about what recently happened. We know what happened when it came to women. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to dive into that because I know everyone's got their opinions, but they've been doing it for years. So in these horror movies, they've empowered these women to be the final girls, right?
Yeah.
And so, which I think it's a fantastic message to convey.
Yeah, definitely.
So, anyways, all right. So before you and I jump into this kind of weird, this weird movie here,
which I would say is even more tame than a lot of the other Cronenberg stuff.
I will agree with you because I've watched some Cronenberg and I'm just like, oh my God, this one I was entertained. Mm-hmm. I was entertained. I didn't hate the movie at all. I will say towards the end of the movie, it lost me a little bit, but we can dive into that in a little bit. But what I like to do is when I have a guest on for the first time, I like to ask them some random questions. You don't know what I'm going to ask you. They're nothing going to be too crazy. Just answer them honestly. If you can't think of an answer, we'll move on. But here we go. Number one. But I wish I had a little one. That's pretty good. I actually like that.
It's the Resident Evil voice.
Let's see. What was the first horror movie you remember seeing as a kid?
I knew you were going to ask that.
Yeah.
I don't really quite remember, but I do. I think probably the closest is Gremlins.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's debate whether or not that's an actual horror movie.
I don't know. I would say it's horror. It's maybe not your true horror, but I would say it's horror.
It's more horror than Gremlins 2.
Yes,
which is
that one's a lot more comedic. And
it's kind of a satire on sequels in general. But Gremlins probably. And then I remember going to the video store because we had a video store right by us.
Yeah.
And I always pass by it, want to see it, and then there was also Ghoulies because there was after Gremlins there was all these like knockoffs of little characters and stuff, and I always wanted to see Ghoulies. Is that iconic shot on the cover of the toilet with the guy sticking out? Yes,
that's a great cover. I would say the covers in the 80s were so great. Like, I mean, because a lot of the movies were just terrible, but if you. It's not like today when you have the internet where I could hop on my phone and I can go check out a trailer for this. I could look, I could kind of read into it. To me, it was like you go to a video store and it's like, okay, I know nothing about this movie, but the cover is really cool, so let me grab it.
It's the same with albums.
Yes.
Because I used to go to record stores and I used to, as a kid, and the internet was kind of around when I was early teens, but it wasn't really to the point where you couldn't go listen to music. There was no Wikipedia at that time or anything like that. So you go to a record store and you'd look at album covers. You're like, oh, this is cool, and then it'd either be dog shit or it'd be something that might change your life.
I would do that as well. Like I would grab like a. I mean, for me, it was a. I know this is gonna. Well, I mean, I would look at albums, but I'd also look at like the little tape cassettes, and there's obviously smaller artwork, or then when the CD came around, I would if I knew nothing about the artist or the group, it's like, okay, this looks kind of cool, and sometimes they were like great, and other times they were bad, and it was a waste of my money. But whatever, you just don't know sometimes. So have you have an all-time favorite horror movie?
It's one of my favorite movies of all time, not just horror, but I mean, The Thing is probably something I watch at least once a year. It's in my top 20. I do lists all the time. Me and my buddy, we do lists, and we send each other lists, and that's cool. Yeah, and that's definitely in my top 20.
The Thing, that's a great one. I mean, for a favorite, honestly, that's a phenomenal movie. I mean, John Carpenter, and then the practical effects are just. I mean, I don't know, man. I've said this before because we did an episode on The Thing, And I mean,
Yeah,
if anyone
I saw
out,
that.
yeah, did you listen to that one? Yeah.
Yeah.
If anyone knows of any other movie that had better practical effects, I mean, let us know. I don't know of any. I mean, they were just
Yeah.
for the time frame. Dude, that just blew me away. I still watch it and go, how the hell did they do that?
Yeah, right.
The head. I mean, and I try not to watch a lot of special features because
You don't want to get ruined. You want to see how the sausage is made.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, like the head, detaching and then turning into a spider. I'm sure there's a special feature out there that's talked about it, but I just like to. I always just like, oh wow, how the hell do they do that?
Yeah, and just how everything escalates, especially in the scene where they go to resuscitate the guy, and it just goes from one thing to another to another. That's a perfect movie.
No, it's fantastic.
It's not
movie.
too long. It's
not. It's not. Yeah.
I will say, as an honorable mention, Dawn of the Dead is one of my favorite films of all time.
Dawn of the Dead is great too.
The original, not the
not that. Oh, the remake. I'm not a huge fan of the remakes.
It was entertaining.
It was entertaining.
Well done for the time.
I like the fact that they made the zombies fast because there was some. To me,
if you don't think about it, it kind of. Yeah.
Because I always feel like the slow zombies are a little more kind of creepy or eerie for me.
Yeah.
But then seeing that take on it, because I don't remember any other movie coming out and making the zombies fast. I could be wrong, but making them really fast like that there's another element of kind of like, oh shit,
Yeah, it does sort of take it out of the realm of. Romero was using that for commentary on a lot of things and a lot of ideas. So it kind of takes the movie out of that realm where you can't really explore any ideas when people are just running around all the time.
Yes, true.
So
true.
I think you still could, but they didn't do it with that movie. They may have tried. But,
Let's see. Okay, here we go. Here, what is the scariest ghost story you heard as a kid? Did any family member ever, try to scare the crap out of you around a campfire or something?
I don't recall ever hearing any ghost stories.
Really? Oh man, you've been deprived.
There was a time when me and my friend were really into ghosts, and he'd come spend the night. And we'd read from these stories about old people telling ghost stories or old ghost stories from the 1800s and things that. And then there was one time I had this little cross that I found, and I put it up somewhere, and it disappeared for a long time, and then it ended up bent somewhere in the corner of this room.
Oh.
And called my friend, and I was accusing him, what we tried to do, because we put that up to try to get a ghost. There's all these stories about in the movies, really, about the ghosts.
Oh, they always whenever there's
vampires.
There's a crucifix on the wall, it always moves or gets kicked off or something.
Yeah. So we tried to do that, and so I accused him of it. And he's like, "What?" And then he accused me, and then but to this day, I don't care because I don't believe in ghosts anymore. So
well, see, that was gonna be my next question, which is so weird. You don't believe in ghosts, huh?
No,
not at all.
Not at all.
Why?
Because there's zero factual evidence that would ever.
Yeah.
I don't want to burst people's bubbles, but at the same time, no, I think it's a construct. Not to get too philosophical, but it makes people feel nice because it's regardless of how you feel about an afterlife, at least believing in ghosts kind of lends a little bit of credence to that. And if you're a ghost hunter and you're watching that show and there's a little bit of, you think there's evidence that they're actually seeing ghosts, well, that's a little bit of something that you can keep with you that says there is an afterlife. And it makes people kind of at least kind of believe in that a little bit.
Yeah. I don't watch any of those ghost shows. They look kind of stupid to me, but I don't know, man. I guess part of me, I think there's a small part of me that believes in ghosts, believes in something on those lines. There are things that while I'm sleeping, I can feel a presence over me that I can't explain. And it's happened my whole life. And I don't know. And maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's part of my dream and I don't realize it.
Right.
But it's happened a lot of times, man.
I think that leap is funny, though. I find that interesting about people. And I think it goes back to probably a lot has to do with our what's genetically that part of our evolution from being creatures who were stalked and who always had to look out for things and always had to their hair on the back of their neck stood up because there was a saber-tooth tiger around the corner or something like that. I think that sticks with us. So I think the leap for humans is natural, but I also find it kind of funny and irrational to me, where we can't explain something, so we make that the leap to like a supernatural thing, which people can have their beliefs and things. I don't.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with me. I just personally.
Yeah.
I just. I can't.
Yeah, no. Hey, man, I respect it. I totally respect it. Yeah, and everyone has their own opinions on stuff, and everyone can believe what they want to believe. I don't begrudge anyone for it. You know,
right? I like ghost movies, like the old ones.
Oh, for sure.
It's like Poltergeist is amazing.
Fantastic.
But I don't like the new ones because I think they rely too much on the audience believing in that first. So it's like you have to go into that movie already sort of believing to enjoy the movie or to be scared by the movie. Whereas like The Exorcist, I don't really believe in any of that stuff, but that's a great movie. That's an amazing movie.
Favorite. That's my favorite.
That's your favorite horror movie?
That is my favorite. Yeah. It is. I love The Exorcist. And the thing is, I was never very religious. I never really went to church. I never did any of that. The only thing I ever went to, and which I've mentioned on this podcast, is there was a time where I was away from home and I was younger, and my dad took me to these weird baptisms, which I just think, and again, I'm not trying to crap on anyone's belief. I'm just telling you my personal experience. It was very bizarre for me when I was in this room, like it was this room with all these people surrounding like someone in like a tub of water and being dunked into it. Just it was unsettling for me. Now I can't speak for everyone else. And so
have you seen like the videos of the, you see the big tent stuff, especially in the Midwest, where people are speaking in tongues and
I've never watched any of that stuff.
Yeah, but that to me is creepier than any
it's
movie.
Odd. It's odd, man. And again, I don't, like I said, everyone has their beliefs and their religions, and I am not here to cast any whatever on it. I'm just telling you, like I never was really raised religious. I never went to church. And so, seeing The Exorcist and all that, just The Exorcist to me as a whole is just, I think it's almost a perfect horror movie. The acting is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
The character development, the music. I mean, just every 1973 and some of the stuff they do is just blows me away.
Yeah.
And
talking of controversial, I mean,
for sure, man.
Especially one scene in particular.
Yeah. And so that's my favorite. But I mean, everyone has their own have their own favorites, and they love them for specific reasons. And it's like, and that's what's great. It's like, like my favorite might be this, but your favorite is this, and I'm like, that's really not you, but just saying in general, like, oh wow, okay, that's interesting. But I also, you have to take account their age too.
Right.
Because I mean, I could talk with, and I have talked with people that are in their, say, mid-20s. I mean, I'm twice their age, right? But they have an appreciation for horror, but what they love is not exactly what I love, but it's okay because we still love the genre. Mm-hmm. And so their favorite movie might be, say, Scream, or it may be, something else that's a little newer, and that's okay,
Yeah.
So, But let's see. Okay, I got another one for you. If you had the opportunity, would you participate in a seance? And I'm thinking now, knowing that you don't believe in it.
No, I would, because I would think that would be really interesting. I had this years and years, probably 20 years ago, this ex-girlfriend who, for some reason or another, all the women, she lived with her mom, and I had her sister lived there too, and they all saw ghosts and things like that.
Oh, okay.
So the mom got this feeling one day, and she was really religious, that their house was haunted.
Yeah.
So it wasn't while I was there, but I think I had come right afterwards, come over, and I saw walked inside, and then I looked, and there was on the inside of the outside, the outside door, on the inside though, there was something like a glare on the door that I'd never seen, and it was in the shape of a crucifix, and it was oil.
Oh, okay.
And she had a priest come to the house, or past, I don't know what she was, but they came and they put oil, and they basically tried to, I don't know, cleanse the house or pray away the ghosts. I'm not sure. But.
I've had a little experience, not with the seance. Let me be very clear, but I've had some experience with the cleansing. And they do it. I have not seen the oil. Uh-huh. I have a lot of people will use scents, I can't think of it right now. But they'll burn certain types of almost.
Okay.
Yeah, like sage. I think sage is one.
Right.
Which I've found out that I'm not. I don't know if I'm allergic to it, but I've had it burned in my home before, and the smell is horrible for me. And all of a sudden, I have like allergic reaction with my eyes, and it's a terrible feeling, man. But some people believe in that, and I don't know if I do or don't believe in it, but it's a thing. So I could see the oil on the,
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's certain religions or if it's just more metaphysical type stuff, that maybe it's not derived from a certain religion, but it's just more on that other aspect. I don't know,
Just someone like, well, we can try this.
Yeah, I mean, and whether it works or not, I guess too. This is the thing, man. Let's say demons and ghosts and all those things don't exist, but if you believe them into reality, then maybe it
can affect you if you believe in it. And if they do something like that and psychosomatic, and they think, okay, they're gone. Well, if that helps, then I'm happy.
Exactly. So if they believe in that part of it, then why can't they believe in the sage or the oil crucifix?
Yeah.
That could be enough just to
Yeah,
definitely. Mine's very powerful, man.
What's interesting.
Yeah.
To me, like, just because I don't believe in something doesn't mean I don't find it fascinating.
Yeah.
I think humans are really strange, and I always come at looking at that kind of stuff through a way of like detached to like, I really want to check this out.
Oh no, it is very fascinating.
I'll try not to, I totally would. Yeah. That would be great. I don't think they'd want me around, but
yeah, well, I mean, all right, last question here. What do you want etched on your tombstone?
Oh, I've never thought about that because I never figured I would be buried. Actually, I don't really care.
No?
No, I never thought.
Never thought about it.
I never thought about that. I thought for a long time I was like, I'll be cremated.
Cremated?
But now I'm like, I don't care. It's more for you. Whoever's left.
This is a weird question, but on the urns, do they etch something like that? Like, you got your tombstone and it could be, you got this thing etched on your tombstone. I'm sure they can engrave something on the...
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you want?
I don't think I need like a saying. I really like horses, and it's been my spirit animal for like 20 years or something.
Really?
And it's not like I'm obsessed with them. I like riding them occasionally, like maybe once every 10 years I'll ride a horse.
I had no idea this was
I don't really know much about them. It's always been my spirit animal, and I have like some things in my house with horses on them.
Yeah.
Mostly like Native American type art, and stuff like that. So I think some sort of etching of a
horse,
of a wild stallion.
A wild stallion.
Yeah.
Hey, all right, man.
That's it. No words. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. All right, man. That was pretty painless, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You survived the question.
All right. And I didn't say anything incriminating. Sweet.
No, not at all. So I guess we'll talk 1983's Videodrome. Whoa. Yeah. David Cronenberg, you recommended this. I'll be honest, man. Like, I had seen some David Cronenberg stuff along the way. I thought I had seen this before.
You'd never seen Videodrome?
I had no. I think I remember the cover. I remember, the movie itself. Maybe I was somewhere when I was a kid and maybe it was on and I watched a little bit of it, but honestly, from start to finish, I didn't recall most of this. And now I will say this happens a lot with me anymore because at 50, I forget a lot of stuff.
Right.
And it sucks, but it's just the reality, man. Again, I'd seen some David Cronenberg stuff along the way. Again, it's hit or miss with me. Like it's either a direct hit for me or it's just, oh my God, it's just out there and not,
Sure, yeah.
And this one is, I honestly, man, it's kind of in the middle on this. Like I loved the first, I'd say, hour of this movie. The last, say, 30 minutes, I don't know if this had a 90-minute running time. I'm just gonna throw that out there. The last 30 minutes to me just seemed, I don't know, it lost it for me.
When it becomes the MK Ultra, like brainwashing kind of about that, I can get that.
And the thing is with this movie, before we kind of talk about it, I want to let everyone know there's going to be spoilers.
1, 2, spoilers coming for you.
I might not understand the whole kind of, the message here. I'll be honest, man, I was a little confused with some of the stuff. What's what's reality and what's hallucinations. I mean, really, I guess we could argue everything that he was seeing is just a hallucination. I mean, come on, first of all, we know our stomach isn't going to open up and there's going to be a slot for a beta tape to be put into.
Yeah, right.
You know,
but then you get into the scenes where someone else puts their hand inside it and it pulls out a bomb, you know?
Yeah, that was weird. Like, but again, is there's the whole thing a hallucination. Is he's hallucinating them there, and is he hallucinating them putting their arm or their hand into his stomach? I don't know, man. That's the thing. It's like, what, you know, is it simply that's the hallucination? But we also know that the program Videodrome is a real thing, like in the scope of the movie, of course.
Well, it causes a tumor.
It causes a brain tumor. So if you watch this, so the idea is, okay, so let's kind of give everyone, like, if they haven't seen this, let's run through the characters. We have Max Wren, who's played by James Woods. Nikki Brand, who's played by Deborah Harry, which I totally forgot she was in this, and everyone will know her from the group Blondie. And then Harlan is the pirater, right? He scans like satellite signals for him.
He reminds me of like a Canadian Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah, a little bit. Jeffrey Combs. Let's see. We have Blanca Oblivion, which I love this last name, by the way. This is awesome.
Right, yeah.
Her father, Brian Oblivion. Barry Convex, does that sound right to you?
Yeah, for the CEO
and then Masha is kind of like she kind of like supplies shows to Max. Max is a president of this channel 83. It's a Civic TV, and it looks like this thing is based in Canada. It looks like Toronto, I think. Is it in Toronto?
I think purposely he doesn't, like, all of his stuff is shot in Canada, especially at that time for most part. But he doesn't like ever really say that it's in Canada because you want the stuff to play in the U.S. and things like that. But
I know a lot of. I remember a lot of. I would say studios did a lot of, especially for horror, filmed in Canada.
Yeah,
and I don't know if it's
cheaper.
Is it cheaper? I assume it's a cheaper thing.
A lot of tax breaks, especially Alberta.
I wonder if that's why, like, a lot of people film in New Zealand because maybe it's just. I mean, first of all, it's beautiful, but I mean, maybe it's because it's a cost thing. It's cheaper. I don't know. I'm not sure. But
that's why a lot of people are filming in Georgia right now.
Yes,
because of the tax breaks and things.
Didn't they do Walking Dead in Georgia? I thought that's where they filmed. Was in
probably.
Georgia.
I know a lot of movies
that's what I'd
heard.
There. Yeah. And so he is a president of. It's basically an X-rated station that it plays like shows that depict like graphic sex and extreme violence. Yeah. And he's always kind of looking for like the new, show that he can, maybe to kind of go a little over the edge, because he's on that talk show, right? And he's trying to justify why he plays these shows.
Yeah.
And I think he says something about it's like an economical thing. It's like we're a small TV station. In order for us to compete, we have to show these types of programs to try to get people to watch because we're so small.
Right.
But the reality is he loves this type of crap.
Yeah.
And so,
I think the idea that people are drawn to that kind of stuff and they're not getting it anywhere else, that's kind of sensationalism of violence and sex that people are not getting and on the major networks and things like that.
Mean, if you think about 83, now I'm trying to think about this. I mean, porn was obviously a huge thing, but I only remember you could get porn from, you go to the video store, and usually it had that little section that was, I don't know.
There's a curtain, you had to go to the bathroom or whatever.
Like a curtain, like it was somehow going to stop little kids from going in there, but whatever. And then maybe, I'm trying to think back. I mean, HBO really didn't play a lot of that. They might have played some TNA, but they'll play movies that had TNA in it. But I'm like, I don't remember when Showtime came about or say Cinemax came about. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Like, I do remember oh my God, man. And this was local here in Sacramento. There was I used to work at, remember the old Cinedomes? And I used to work at the old Cinedomes back in the late 80s. And I used to live, when I lived with Grandma and Grandpa, I'd have to leave Natomas and I'd have to drive to work. Well, I'm a creature of habit, so I'd always go the same way, and I'd go down Watt Avenue. And Watt Avenue.
Oh, you're talking about the porno theater?
Yeah, do you remember the porno?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I remember that. I never saw a movie there. I would drive past it because I would love the titles. The titles, I couldn't tell you any of them now.
I don't remember any of them.
But they were so funny, dude. Like, it was like the highlight of my day. I'd be driving down Watt and I'd see those and I'm like, oh my God, that's hilarious. But I don't know I'm sure those types of theaters are still around somewhere. Maybe in like, I don't know where they would be. But I'm sure it's still a thing. But back then, nowadays I would almost say it's a lot more acceptable, I mean, because hell, you could hop on your phone and find a video within a second of some sort of, but back then it wasn't that accessible, man. So you had to either rent it.
Get a Hustler magazine.
Get a Hustler, something like that. And so I don't know, man. I mean, nowadays, like I said, it's so common. It's almost, it's whatever.
Kids, there's this thing online about kids in high school who are familiar with there's that website Pornhub.
Oh yeah, Pornhub.
And they're familiar with like the theme song. There's like it's not a theme. It's like a little like 10-second like beat that plays before some of the original content or whatever. So there's this these videos online about kids knowing about this, so they're playing these things like at big high school like rallies. Like it'd be like a drummer playing that beat and like all the kids like going nuts and just like, wow, like
that's kind of
it's like it's in the cultural zeitgeist, like porno now at a really young age. So yeah, it is a lot different from back then, which when I was a kid, nobody had access to that kind of stuff.
You didn't, and the kids nowadays are so desensitized to everything because it's, I mean, within 5 seconds, they could grab on their phone and they could look up something, and it's just, we didn't have that. I mean, I'm a little older than you, but I mean, we had none of that, none of that, man. Like I said, I mean, I wasn't renting pornos when I was a teenager. That just wasn't happening. And, occasionally you would see it on whatever, on some sort of cable program, but you had to have normally a subscription for that. And again, I don't know how regular they played. I don't remember, man. Right. Yeah. So it was usually you have to go rent the thing.
Yeah. You can imagine in 1983 that's what you had to do. You had to go to a theater, or you had to rent. Rent it.
Rent it, and you had to be, what was it, 17 or 18? I mean, I guess I'm going to assume 18. I don't know.
Yeah, they might have
X-rated.
And in '83, how long had VHS and things been around?
I don't think. Well, Beta was the first, and then VHS came, but I don't think it was around that long, man. I mean, I want to say, and I could be way off, but I want to say late 70s. Like Beta
even putting that stuff on home video yet. Or maybe they were, but it wasn't like how widespread was that market?
I think it became big. Like I actually think
it came out.
I think honestly, man, I think that type of stuff, like media on, porn on let's call it VHS, because Beta only lasted for a second. It just didn't survive, man. There was like a Beta VHS war, and it went to the wayside, man. And so I think it was a huge thing. It's kind of like the workout thing, the people exercising. That was like, dude, it became so big. Like Jane Fonda's workout or something like that. Like it was accessible through a VHS tape, and it became huge, dude. Like everyone was doing it, and that's how porn became. It was like they could now get it to, because a lot of people aren't going to go to a theater to watch it, man.
Right? That's so weird.
Right. So let's say you're into it,
Pee
right?
Wee Herman killed the porno theater industry.
He did, man. But let's say you're into it, right? Because a lot more people are into it than they will admit they're into it. But let's say, I mean, you're not going to go to a movie theater to see that because you're worried you're going to run into someone you know. But behind closed doors of my house, I could totally watch that and no one's going to know.
Yeah,
except for, I guess, the clerk at the video store.
They've seen it all.
They've seen it all.
Whatever.
They don't judge.
It reminds me of a Taxi Driver. because
Oh, yeah.
it's like a normal thing. He goes to the theater, he gets his like popcorn or his little he's looking around, taking his time, looking to see what he wants, and then when he takes his date out, he thinks his normal thing, he just takes her to the porno theater, and she's like, what the fuck are we doing?
What are we doing here, man? I know. But Max is trying to he's trying to find like some kind of new, some new thing, some new broadcast that he can air on his little small little TV station.
Yeah.
And the Harlan comes across Videodrome. And basically this is like this is just a program that depicts like
it's like a pirate transmission that
Yeah.
he is able to tap into.
Yeah.
That's basically what is it? Not just smoke. What is it when someone when they die? A snuff.
Oh, a snuff
Yeah,
film.
it's- they're like
That's
snuff
kinda,
films.
Yeah, it's kind of like what this is, right?
But
It's
he
like,
doesn't think they're real.
He doesn't think it's real. But it's like, it's like torture and murder with really no sort of story.
Yeah.
And he thinks he definitely thinks it's, not real, and wants to track down the people that are broadcasting this,
Mm-hmm.
And so he talks with Masha, and she does some digging. The way they convey her is she's been doing this a long time and knows people, and she finds out that it's out of Pittsburgh, I think, right?
Yeah, it's in Pittsburgh,
finds
which
out
is
that-
not very far from them, which
That's true, right?
could be Toronto.
Yeah.
I think they make it ambiguous because it could be New York, because it's also not.
I thought at one point during watching this last night, I thought that I saw something that said like Toronto or something like that, but I could be wrong.
But they never really say specifically.
Do they don't?
and
They
I
don't do that.
think
Okay.
So, because
And as we're aware, it's not too far.
Yeah.
But he wants to track it down. But she warns him about this. Hey, this is. It seems to be like. Is it politically motivated? That's what she thinks it is. And I think she mentions like it's politically motivated.
It's
Be very
dangerous because
it's
it has
dangerous,
an ideology attached to it. That's
Yes.
one of the kind of the themes of this, is whereas he doesn't give a shit. He just wants sensationalism because people crave that. They want to get out of their ordinary lives and watch something fucked up. And they're
Yes.
drawn to sex and violence, and it's innate within us. But she can tell it has a very clear ideological message, or whoever's behind it, because they are. She tells them it's real, and they're doing what they're doing because that's what they do. There's something behind why they're doing that. It's not just sensationalism.
Yeah,
and that's what's dangerous.
And he doesn't. He's like whatever, and he
doesn't believe her. He's like, no, I just want to.
to.
I got to get that.
Yeah, I got to get that. And he seeks it out, and he does he come across. So I know on the when he does the talk show. And that's where he runs into Nikki Brand, played by Deborah Harry.
Who? Oh, go ahead.
Go,
I'm
what
just,
were you gonna say?
I was going to say who like goes immediately, like he's hitting on her, and she's
like while like they're interviewing. I think the host is interviewing Brian Oblivion, and he's literally hitting on her like. While
it's going on,
while he's talking, and I was like, all right, but I mean,
she's playing kind of hard to get though,
a little bit,
because
but,
she's not like really involved in that. She's kind of arguing against him, and then when she comes over to his house, everything just switches like a
it's
dime.
like, hey, where's your porn?
yeah, gets me in the mood. She wants him to.
She's kind of a hypocrite, right? Because doesn't she she has her own like hotline where I can't remember what the actual like hotline is for. It's for people who have issues or problems. I don't know.
Like a suicide type.
Is it a suicide one?
Yeah,
maybe. I mean, I know that was again a big thing back then. Was that sort of hotline? Mm-hmm. They had a lot of those hotlines back then, man.
Yeah.
A lot, just various ones that you could call up. But she's kind of like a little bit of a hypocrite, right? She has people calling to give them certain advice, but doesn't really live by that,
Yeah, or she just has this, I guess she could still have it both ways because she's trying to help people with their problems, but she just doesn't want anybody to know that she's a super freak.
Yeah.
And then
I think a lot of, if you think about it, Scott, a lot of people are like that, right? Like,
Yeah.
like hell, like, I don't know if this might be before your time. No, do you remember the television evangelists, how they would go on TV and they'd preach about all these things, but then behind closed doors, they were doing freaky stuff that they got caught, you know?
Right, yeah.
I mean, so it's like, yeah, man. And so I almost would say Cronenberg was kind of ahead of its time with the message he was kind of conveying here. I'm not saying he was the only one that ever did this, but I mean, if you think about it, if you watch Videodrome and then you kind of how it, you know, from 83 and how society kind of progressed, a lot of the stuff that he writes about or depicts in this movie has kind of come to fruition, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
it's stuff when you talk about mass media. A lot of that's
the masses,
in this film. Existence is sort of a spiritual successor to this movie a little bit. And that movie, again, deals with, instead of television, it's video games and virtual environments, but also, again, sex and violence, which now everything has kind of technology, you know, we're in the social media age, but it's still an extension of what was radio and television and games.
Absolutely.
And virtual. Now
it's just to a different, it's just like to the extreme now. It's like on steroids, man. I was thinking about this, like there's a scene towards the end where he has this gun, you know, and the gun is somehow infused to his hand, right? Like it's part of him. Like he's he's like transformed, you know? And I was thinking about like the idea of the gun, you know? And I was thinking, okay, well, what would that be in 2022? And that would be our cell phone, man. Because, you know, people still to these days, they preach about, you know, gun violence and stuff. And they should. And I'm not going to get all political into that. I'm not at all. But the cell phone, I would argue that the cell phone is almost as dangerous. And again, I don't want to piss people off here, okay? I'm not saying that guns, because guns are you know, they're violent, all these other things, okay? I'm not saying any of that, and I'm not going to go down some rabbit hole. But what I'm saying is, how damaging is a cell phone? You take a video, you send out a tweet, you take a pic, and all of a sudden it's out there and it destroys lives, man. It may not destroy it in the same way, say, a gun does, but it does, man. And that's what, and nowadays it's scary, man. Yeah. Because at any time someone could say something and as a joke, let's just say it's a joke, and all of a sudden someone videos them. And then they send it out for the world to see, and all of a sudden their life is they're completely ruined, man. They have to disappear somewhere and change their name because there's just there's no normalcy anymore, man.
Sure. I think that's what you're touching upon is, if there's one main theme of the movie, it's how mass media, how it evolves over time and we're connected to it, and how it can be used against us with people with ideological reasons or political reasons, or, you know, like him, just sensationalism. Yeah, he's the Michael Bay, just wants to blow shit up. But there's people who can use that for political gain and
absolutely,
and control. So I think that is, whether it's television or a cell phone, just mass media bombarding people all the time and getting sucked in, and that the idea of the feedback loop, which we know now. What people didn't know back then is that you watch something that becomes your reality, and it changes your perception, which now becomes your new reality, which changes what you watch, which is just this big feedback loop of perception continually changing because it's affecting what you're watching through your eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's scary, man, how much, you know, just media as a whole, and I'm not going to just say, you know, whatever. We'll put it all under one umbrella of media. How it influences people, you know, especially the younger generation. You know, they're still learning. They're still trying to figure stuff out, right? Yeah. And then they hop on their phone, and then all of a sudden they see this, whatever this thing is, and now that's how that's almost their reality. That's what they believe. When you and I. No, that's not the case, man. Yeah. And they're being manipulated, and it's
from all these different angles, like tearing
like you and I being, you know, older. I'm not saying we weren't manipulated by media. We were, but now it's to the extreme, man. Like, it is coming from so many different angles.
Right. Yeah.
And I feel bad for this generation because they don't know any better, and we do the best we can to teach them, but when they hear it so often, I mean, so they will take, it's like, if you hop on your phone and you see something, and you and I look at it and we know it's not real, but these kids, this younger generation don't know. And if they see it enough, they just think this is definitely real.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's completely false.
Right.
Hell, you can manipulate photos these days. You can manipulate videos these days. And I don't think people understand that it only takes one thing that you do and you put it out there, and all of a sudden people start thinking it's real and they're believing in it, and now you've ruined that whoever's person's life because of it, man. I mean, it's horrible. And I see these. I don't watch a lot of those videos because I don't like watching that shit. It's just it's depressing for me. Where some sort of fight or someone putting someone down or whatever, because you're always going to have almost a 50-50 split, right? It's like that with everything. It's like that. It's religion or politics. It's like you can never have those types of conversations with people because, you're never going to agree, and that's okay. But some people go to that extreme, and then they try to shove it down your throat, and then and it's just, and it honestly, man, it's bothersome to me that it happens so often these days, and then there never seems to be any repercussions to the people that seem to do it. And I think that's what bothers me. And I'm sorry I went on a rant there, but it was the only thing I could think of while I was watching this movie. And I was like, I had to kind of like, it was the only thing I can relate to it. It's, that's what I immediately thought of. It's like, God damn, it's like, so many lives get ruined these days, man. And it's just not needed, man. And I think people just need to be more cautious about it. And
I wish they would. I think there's a lot of studies, and a lot of it has to do with how you raise a kid, and when you start introducing technology, especially like social media and stuff. At what ages is like beneficial because it adds to their development because they're learning traits that they're going to need for the rest of their life in a technological society. But versus when is it harming because they're going to be dependent, and it basically. At this point, having a phone and making those decisions and being immediately gratified because of the choices that you have, things you can sift through, that's basically, what is it? It's these things being released in your brain. It's crack. So if you get kids on that too early, it's really damaging. And then especially not even just social media, but just the fact that they have control over everything.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And you're having a baby here soon, so you got to.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking about this stuff constantly, and it's like it's on my mind every time I talk to like a parent who's a recent or whose kid maybe is like 8 or between like 4 and 8. I'm like, so what are you doing? Yeah, and just getting people's ideas. And
I think what I've noticed is, again, because everything is so the phones and the gadgets and all these other things these days, like I didn't have that when I was a kid. I think the kids should be subjected to it at some point. But I almost feel, and again, I'm not saying all parents. I'm just saying, because parents are still trying to figure stuff out. That's what we do, right? When we're a parent, you can read all the books you want and you can talk to people, but until the baby comes and the kid comes, and then you've kind of figured out on your own. Mm-hmm. And I never read any books on it. I just kind of went with your gut, right? Mm-hmm. You just went with your gut and you try to figure it out. And I think that maybe a lot of the parents these days, and I'm not saying they are, I'm just saying is it possible that they just don't want to spend that time to figure that out, and it's just easier to give them a device and say,
especially when they're in a public place, and I've seen this a lot. And it has nothing to do with their parentage. It's just a sign of the times and technology that we have. If you want to occupy your kid when you're at breakfast or something, it's easy to put your phone down and they can watch Yo Gabba Gabba,
whatever it is these days. I know they come up with all these programs. I see it all.
I question that kind of thing, and I'm worried about that kind of stuff. But I also know that if you don't introduce that kind of stuff into your kid at certain points, they will be out of the loop when it comes to
that's the
society
fine line, Scott.
Yeah.
It's like, where's that happy medium? You were in college, you're gonna have to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
You got to figure that out, man. And I think it all depends on the kid as well. Each kid is different, man. None of them are the same.
I know.
They just aren't,
definitely.
You know,
you can't treat them all as the same thing.
you could have a baby, and then you guys could go out and eat, and he is perfectly content, and he's sitting there, and he's chilled out, and he's having a great time, and then you got or you could have a kid that is just, oh my God, I'm screaming, I'm yelling, I'm crying because this, and the baby doesn't understand. They don't understand that part of it when they're that young, but you just don't know, and it's like you got to figure that out. But it's scary, man.
Yeah.
I do not envy the new parents that are bringing kids into this time frame. It's but I guess with every generation, right? There's certain obstacles that you have to figure out.
Right.
This is just another obstacle,
Yeah, it's like all those obstacles before this one, though, blown up into 10 because we don't really know what where things are going with this. I mean, radio and TV and all the things that came before this weren't this powerful. I mean, it's shaping adults. It's taking adults into the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, of people who grew up knowing that these things, that the earth wasn't flat, that we landed on the moon, all these other things. And now they've been so twisted and taken along for this ride by people who probably don't give a shit. Maybe they do. That's, again, it's ideological. It's like, who's behind it? What are they doing it for? It's but it all kind of comes, and I was thinking about this whole time too when I was watching Videodrome about it. Just social media kept popping up, social media.
Honestly, it was it's weird, man, because I mean, we're talking Videodrome was 83, so 40, let's call it 40 years.
Yeah.
And how that was my immediate, like, I took what he was going through and just kind of towards the end of the movie especially. And it was easy for me to relate it to nowadays with social media.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's really, I mean, that's what this was, right? It's kind of media as a whole, and it just has, I don't know, progressed. It's gotten
to the nth degree because
it really
of
has,
how
man.
Technology has gotten just so accessible.
Man, I look back, and again, I always date myself, but in 83, what I had versus now, Scott, it blows me away sometimes, the stuff that I see. Like the cell phone, first of all, is crazy. The amount of stuff that the cell phone can do and how far it's come since the phone eventually came out, the cell phone came out. Mm-hmm. And then I look at the other stuff and I'm like, what? There's a thing that does that? And and you probably have heard of, and I don't have an example, but you're like, yeah, Rick, like that's been around for 5 years. I'm like, what? Where have I been?
Right.
Like, am I so far out of the loop sometimes that I don't know this is a thing? And it just blows me. Does it? It just blows me away. Like where we've come, man. Like I remember listening to music on, say, a Walkman, and I had to throw batteries in it. And now I can access music anywhere. I can have a device on me at all times that plays music.
Yeah.
And I don't, dude, it's just, and again, I know that's like a more simplified example, but
I think the difference in technology will always happen from generation to generation, but I think the difference is communication, how communications change. So like me and you were 10 years apart.
Yeah.
We've had more or less the same similar type of childhood because we didn't have all this stuff.
Yeah.
Even with my dad, he's born in 1950. We had the same similar childhood. You're a kid. You do stuff with your parents. You have friends. They live down the street.
Yeah.
You can't get a hold of anybody immediately because none of that stuff was around. Communication was just, you call a friend's house.
Yeah.
But now today it's drastically different, and it's people being able to get in touch with each other, being able to pull up any sort of information immediately. That is completely different than how we were raised. So that's where the crux is.
Yeah. I had to go to the library if I wanted to find out anything. Oh,
me too.
And honestly, I mean, we were limited on what we could find in a library. It didn't have. Yeah. I mean, the libraries these days, and I know they still exist, but now they're probably 10 times as large because over the course of 40 years, you just, you have more of whatever it is, And so, I had to go to a library. I had to look something up. Now. man, it's funny. It's like I'll have a conversation with just anybody, a friend, a family member, and I don't know, we're talking about whatever it is. Let's just say we're talking about a movie and I can't remember an actor's name. It literally, I hop on my phone and 2 seconds later I have it. Or whatever, something that happened, in history 200 years ago. It's like I can find it with on my phone within 5 seconds.
Sure. Yeah.
No, before then I had to get on my bike. I had to pedal to the library or whatever that was. And I had to talk to the librarian. Hey, I'm looking for something like this. Okay, well, let me put you in this direction. But it may not be totally specific. Like today, everything is so specific.
Yeah.
And that's what blows me away. And it's right here on my phone, man. And so it's like it has its advantages. It does.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a lot of
I think the advantage is more where you really appreciate it is if you didn't grow up having that kind of stuff.
Yes, you really do. And I know we're sounding like some old fogies, but
just like this anti-technology rant. In my day.
In my day. I know it's funny, man. Like 40 years ago or 30 years ago, I would make fun of like at a family event, listening to your dad talk with, say, Uncle Bing or Glenn or whoever, and I would laugh at what they had to say.
Right.
And now 30 years later, I'm saying this same stuff, and it's
funny,
funny,
by
man.
people's music today. It was like, what is that?
I know. I do find myself doing that. I'm like, what is this crap?
Why is this guy famous? Yeah.
No, really? It's like, I know, man. It's we all get older and we all become like, in some sort of variation of our parents or something.
Yeah,
we kind of do.
It's almost reverse though, because we grew up in a time where movies, horror movies, and these different genres of music and punk and metal, and I still listen to all that stuff.
Yeah.
So now I look at movies and music today, I'm like, this shit is tame. Like, where's the stuff that's getting these kids to think about things? And
I don't know, man.
And
honestly,
not just like listen to someone's opinion, but really like get into like movies, how you can take something analogously and take it apart and then leave it up to the listener or the viewer to make their own decision.
Yeah.
But really kind of push them to make their own decisions about things.
I would say movies still do that a little bit. Maybe not as much as, say, the 80s. I think the 80s was kind of like
there's
that.
not as much variety. It's either you go to the big movie house, which is dwindling the amount of movies.
It really is, yeah.
Or you go to your, Tower Theater, and there's still good stuff playing there, but the diversity among types of films is just it's
true. That is, I can't argue
funneled
that.
down to a couple different things.
And music, I don't. Music,
Everything's pop. now.
Everything is pop. That's what I've noticed,
All the genres have whittled down
to pop. It's pop, or I guess maybe country. I don't listen to country, but honestly, man, like I don't listen to anything new. I just don't. And it doesn't mean that I wouldn't if it was worth listening to, in just my opinion. That's why I listen to like all my old stuff, man. It's just, it just seemed, for me at least, it seemed had more of a message in it. It just, I don't know. I enjoy it more. I don't know, man. It just seems like everything's pop these days, and I'm probably wrong. I'm sure there are still other genres.
You got to go underground though for that.
See, I like
it used to be.
I like listening to a lot of indie stuff, but again, it's like you're saying, it's almost like, I'm not going to say indie's underground, but I mean it's not too far away from that, and right. I like that type of stuff, but you're right, man. Is there still punk? I mean, is punk still as big as, I know metal's still a thing, but is it as big as it was when we were growing up? I don't know.
I mean, punk to kids now is that MGK douchebag. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Is that Machine Gun
Kelly? Yeah. It's like, that's punk to kids.
Is that punk?
Like, that's what it's.
Are you serious? That's punk to them?
That's what he thinks it is, and that's what the kids who listen to that shit think that
kids,
is.
that is not punk. Yeah.
And that terrifies me. And that's that kind of thing. Yeah.
Wow, man. That's crazy.
I think that kind of goes back. It reminds me of Videodrome in the sense that because he was looking for new things, that people hadn't seen yet to put out there.
Something edgy that would keep that would attract, keep his current viewers, attract more viewers, because everything's word of mouth, especially back in the early 80s.
Yeah.
And he was into it. Let's call it what it is. He was into it, and so he, I know we went on a little bit of a rant, but I think this movie kind of warrants that. There's a lot of depth to what Cronenberg was doing here. You know, there's a lot of movies that don't have any of that.
Yeah.
And this has a lot of depth and a lot of messaging going on here, and I think that's why we've kind of gone down some rabbit holes here, because I think that was probably Cronenberg's intent. Once you're done watching the movie, he wants you to think about it. He wants you to talk about these things.
Exactly,
you know,
yeah.
Whether it's 40 years later, it doesn't matter. It's still happening. It's just happening a little differently.
Yeah.
You know, and so you know, Max develops a tumor because he's watched this.
It's a certain transmission.
Transmission. And so now he's seeing all these hallucinations. And they're not really, I don't think they're kind of, you know, I thought maybe Cronenberg would go a little crazier. Now, look, some of them are a little weird. The whole, you know, his stomach opening up and him.
Vagina and the.
Dude, right. Okay, I didn't want to say that, but yes. It totally looked like an enormous vagina.
Yeah.
You know.
I think that was the intention.
I think it was.
Cronenberg is not shy from introducing that kind of imagery, intrusions and things that might resemble, body parts. And
well,
things.
I mean, yeah, and I didn't know Rick Baker did the effects.
Oh
for
yeah,
this.
right, yeah.
I didn't
American Werewolf in London.
Yeah,
and
he did a ton of stuff.
Yeah,
but
a ton
I mean,
of stuff.
I think most people would remember him from American Werewolf in London, but.
He's an actor too, right?
I think he's done some
up,
stuff.
like, Cupid parts.
Yeah. And so I didn't realize, 'cause I was reading something. They're like, he was reading like some of the effects. He's like, "You want us to do what?"
Like the tumor gun at the end.
That one's a little, that was a little hokey for me. But I mean,
did
you
I
like
dug
it?
Yeah, I dug it.
I did like when he had the gun in his hand and it was kind of embedding into his hand, like the metal, like it
Right,
was
yeah,
almost like
that's
fusing.
cool, yeah.
I thought that was. I think what I didn't like was the fact that it looked like a big blob of something. That was
I
a
could
little,
see that.
and that threw me off a little bit.
Yeah.
I will say the stomach effect is cool.
Especially when he's on the couch.
Yeah.
And he's
It
like
is-
sticking his whole arm
he's
in there, and it's
yeah.
like, wow, that looks like his
Absolutely,
chest.
it looked really good.
Yeah.
You know, and then the scene where I think it was Barry, you know, this guy. What's their intent here? He owns like a glass. What was it? Is that like
They're a multinational corporation which makes
Eyeglass.
eyewear
right?
for poor people, but also is like a military contractor that creates
Yes.
like missile guidance systems for NATO.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. I
Yeah.
love that because I mean that is kind of a thing where you get these, you know, you get these companies like GM making military stuff.
Yeah.
Or, you know,
It was a little strange here. And their idea, I think I had to write this down because I was like, okay, well, their idea is to use Videodrome to rid America of like social decay. That was, I think, their whole point here.
yeah, I think it's it's anyone who's been sucked into the television and who's dependent on it you're going to get a tumor. And you're going to hallucinate, and it's going to be survival of the fittest, I guess. They're going to kill off anybody who's dependent, and thereby creating a stronger society that's not dependent on media to, you know, for their day-to-day lives.
There's not a lot of those, though. I mean, just even in 2022, man. I mean, hell, even in '83, people were so hooked on that. I mean, it's rare that you find someone that just doesn't care.
Yeah.
I mean, they're out there, but I mean, so that idea of like, we're going to transmit this because Harlan, and we didn't know until later that Harlan was part of this. Like, he had started a couple years earlier, but the idea was to eventually get Max to basically televise this program on this channel, so that people would watch it and then it would infect them.
I do think they went about it in a weird way.
I did too.
Because if you're going to have a CEO kill his partners, that's going to get shut down.
Exactly. Because he said go kill your partners. What was the other message?
Or if he just wanted to take control of that channel from them.
But there wouldn't be a more sensible way of doing that instead of just killing them.
Yeah, it would be to buy a huge station. Use your multinational corporation funds to buy something.
So let's say they've infected Max, and they can control him now. Okay, well, just say, hey, buy them out.
Right.
Buy
yeah.
your partners out. Okay. I'm sure that they like money. I'm sure, and if this company has this backing, especially military backing, I'm sure money is probably no object.
Right.
Buy them out. Then now you can control this Channel 83 and play Videodrome.
Right. I think that's where you talked about the end, like maybe the last third of the movie gets the intent gets a little muddled.
It does. Like
as far as the reality of the film.
I think so. Like I felt, it was like the first hour was I was entertained. I liked it. The last 30 minutes was convoluted. Like there was literally like 3 endings. Like I was like, okay, is this movie over? And then then he kept going, and then it was like, okay, here's the ending. Oh no, this is the ending. And I'm like, it was. I don't know. And I read that maybe there was a couple other alternate endings, and then they eventually went with this one.
Really?
The actual ending itself, I don't mind it.
Yeah.
But it was like these different climaxes, and it lost me a little bit.
Sure, I can see that. I love the actual ending where he's watching himself kill himself on the
do
TV,
like it, yeah.
and that becomes his reality. That's a great end there. But yeah, there was also, it could have ended when he killed the other guy, and he's yelling, long live the new flesh. It could have been mixed up in that somehow. I could see that. And then the shift from the kind of, you're not really sure what's real and what's not.
That's
and
the
then
thing, man.
it kind of shifts into being brainwashed by both sides. He's brainwashed by the company, and then he's brainwashed by what's her name? Oblivion. What's her first name?
Her name is Blanca.
Blanca Oblivion. Yeah, and then it kind of, to me, then it turned into like, is this a commentary on like those experiments that the government did with LSD in the 60s, like MK Ultra and stuff like that?
Could be. I wouldn't put anything past Cronenberg, man.
Yeah, but then it kind of felt a little bit separate. Like, okay, it kind of goes in a new direction a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I could see that. I mean, I loved it. I think as a whole, like for the most part, like the movie just it's like a turning point in his career.
Yeah.
Where everything just came together as far as like the look and his writing in that movie.
Yeah, I think what I like about the movie, like if I was just to strip it down and I'm watching a movie just for entertainment purposes, I don't know. Like I said, the first hour I'm on board, and then you lose me. Mm-hmm. Now, if I'm looking at it from a substance perspective and a message perspective, like, okay, you got me on this one, because I mean there's a lot of stuff happening here that, like we said,
obviously there's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about that is relevant to this day.
Absolutely.
Because it wasn't Brian Oblivion, which we find out had died, and they were just transmitting old video cassettes of him. And his idea was television and video broadcasts will one day take over the world as reality. Well, I mean, think about these days, all the reality shows that we have that it's been shoved down our throats that for some reason people find entertaining. Like, it's funny. I never watch any reality shows. When I talk with someone that does, I look at them, I almost like do a double take. I'm like, really? Like, you're into that? And then I find myself judging them, which I don't. I do not judge people. I typically do not judge people.
It's hard not to when you.
It's almost hard not to. Like, I was talking to someone recently that was watching MTV, and I'm like, "Are you seriously watching MTV?" Like, because I don't even know if they even play music anymore. I don't think they do. It's literally riddled with reality shows.
Yeah,
and
not only that, but the other thing that gets me, and it's along that lines, is it's not just reality, but now we're watching shows where we're watching people's reactions to. So you're watching reactionary stuff. So there's stuff like on MTV where they're watching videos that you could watch on YouTube of people falling and shit that we used to watch on America's Funniest Home Videos, right?
Yeah.
But they're watching a panel of people react to that and talk about it. Yeah. And like, that's so far removed so that you're watching these people's perception of something else. And that's
so weird.
Like, weird. So we've gone beyond reality TV to someone else's reality of.
Is there like a double reality, like reality? I don't know. Is that a freaking thing?
It's like you could watch someone's life, and then you would watch someone's life. But now we're watching someone's life, and someone else watching that someone's life, and you're watching their reaction.
Right? That's bizarre, even saying it like out loud, man.
Yeah,
but that's super common these days.
Right? Yeah, that's a thing, and it bugs the shit out of me.
It does.
I can't
it does
stand
me
it.
too.
I
It
hate
does.
I found my dad watching because those are more for teenagers, but he started watching one of those. Yeah, and so he's watching this. I think it's on MTV. It's I forgot that guy's name. He was like an ex-skateboarder.
Tony Hawk? Not
Tony Hawk. Like Rob. I think his name is Rob something.
Okay. I don't know a lot of skateboarders. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I don't either. So the show is basically that. They're watching funny videos from online.
I know what you're talking about. It's kind of like what Tosh was, Tosh.0. But it's
okay.
Yeah.
But at least he has some creative
I know who you're talking about. I don't know what the show is called. I don't know what the show is called.
Yeah, I don't either.
But I've seen like clips of it. And I'm like, okay, yeah.
So why are you watching this?
I don't know.
To my dad's credit, he doesn't know. Probably you can watch those videos on YouTube. So to him, that's just the most
true.
Current version of America's Funniest Home.
Your dad is old as hell, and so he probably would. Sorry, Kurt, but he probably wouldn't know, huh?
Yeah, he probably doesn't know how to look up funny videos on YouTube.
Oh my god! Okay,
which is called fail videos. I could tell, like you could go. I've gone through the rabbit hole of watching fail videos like for hours.
Oh, I go down rabbit holes for sure.
But watching someone else watch those videos,
don't do
just.
that.
I'd rather blow my brains out.
Yeah, don't do that stuff. But isn't it funny, man, how we talk about generations? How, like me at 50. And I think your dad's around 70, right? 70-ish?
Yeah,
72. 72? Okay.
Yeah.
And the fact that, I am sure you've had numerous conversations where you try to explain certain stuff to him that, that you would think he would know, but because he's so much older, it's probably just not as important to him. And so he doesn't figure all that. I do that.
Yeah.
Scott, I have these conversations with Donovan. I'm 50, he's 31, right? You would think I would know something, and then I don't have the patience, or I need him to explain it or show me something. I should know it, and it's that generational gap. It's catching up to me, man. Pretty soon, I'm going to be your dad.
Yeah.
It's weird, man, but it's just a natural progression as we get older. I think certain things become less important, so we don't focus on them. And so we have to have someone younger show us or explain it to us, man. And it's just a natural progression.
Right.
It really is, and it's sad, and you're going to get there too. And I think you already kind of are a little bit.
I'm there. I'm just dismissive.
Pretty soon, your little one, say 15 years down the road, you at say 55 and him at 15 is going to be explaining something to you, and you're going to be going, "Oh my god!" It's
like technologically, I've always been into technology, but it's the intent and content that he'll probably have to explain why something. Like, why are you watching this?
Yeah.
Well, because it's like okay.
I'm telling you, man, in some different way or another, it's going to happen, and it's because it's happened to me, and I'm like, oh my! I actually find myself thinking about it, like when I ask Donovan for something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, I've become like so-and-so. I call my mom or whoever else. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but because it just happens. We get older and stuff becomes less important to us. And so our focus changes over time. And so what you're focused on now in 15 years, you may not focus on it as much. And so it's like, oh man. Yeah. But anyways, man, I mean, Videodrome, I do like this movie. I think I would recommend it to people. I mean,
have you watched like the movies before Videodrome, or like what Cronenberg films have you seen?
Honestly, I haven't seen a lot.
So when I get into especially auteurs, like Cronenberg is absolutely an auteur.
Yeah.
And so you have to you don't have to, but it's interesting to look at their films in the context of their filmography.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, I know he did. I can't read. It was so funny. I was just talking with Morris about Shivers the other day. And I don't think I've seen Shivers. I know he's got The Brood. I know he did Scanners, which I think I saw. But I saw Scanners so long ago that I would have to rewatch it. And I'm sure I had a far different opinion on it than I did when I saw it in what was Scanners? Early 80s?
It was before.
It was maybe
Videodrome, so it was
81,
like 80?
82, something like that. Maybe 80. Okay,
Yeah, maybe 80, 81.
So honestly, man, it's
no, it was 82.
and The Fly,
I love The Fly.
Dead Zone, Naked Lunch. God, I want to say I've seen some other ones. I can't think of them right now. Yeah, I can't think of any right now.
Yeah,
Those are the ones I can talk more about. And
there
there
are
might
more
be enough.
horror elements.
Yeah.
And then I think after there's a couple others in there that aren't really more thriller or less horror or less body horror.
Yeah.
Existence is like a late 90s.
I can tell you I have not seen that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can tell you.
That one definitely. You can see Cronenberg definitely from his earlier films, even The Brood. Like he's playing with ideas and commentary on different things. Maybe Scanner's not so much. That's kind of the one that maybe sort of lacks.
And that's the thing, man, because I haven't seen Scanners in so long that I'm sure there's a message
I love it, though.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a message. It's just not as deep and
Yes.
maybe personal as everything else is.
Yeah.
You can tell. Videodrome's kind of the beginning of the kind of exploration of, I think, sex and violence and maybe reality, which is kind of a recurring theme in a lot of his films. But yeah, after Existence is kind of a spiritual successor to this movie, where it deals with video games instead of television, and there's layers of reality, and it's before like maybe VR had been out as far as like going to like an arcade and they had those big giant machines, maybe one of them, and you can put a big stupid helmet on, and they were really like rudimentary compared to what it is now. But in Existence, it was before the Matrix. Everybody has like a little device in their back.
Yeah.
And of course he had to make it like sexual. So
Of course he did. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a Cronenberg if he didn't do that. Yeah.
So people are playing around with those things. It gets weird. And their video game controllers are like fleshy things that look like little like nipples and things.
My God.
And they're like rubbing.
I swear, man, he definitely has his niche, right? And he's into what he's into, and and
they're interesting though. I love how people with that bring in their personal, like, want to explore ideas into films, and that's what separates good film, I think. And not even just horror, I've never really been one to like separate genres. I just like films.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not going to not watch something because it's a certain genre. If it looks interesting to me, I'll watch it. And I'll give something a chance. Like I may watch a trailer and I'm like, oh God, that looks bad. But if someone has, let's say someone I respect or someone whatever that has said, hey, you know what, I think you might like this. Okay, I'll give it a shot, and there's a good chance I might not like it.
Yeah,
there are certain things I'm not a huge fan of the body horror stuff. I with Videodrome, there's certain elements that are a little uncomfortable that I'm not a fan of.
Oh, and you haven't seen Crash?
No, I haven't seen Crash.
Oh my! Talk about uncomfortable.
That's uncomfortable.
Go ahead, continue on.
Yeah. I think it's just. Like this, I mean, I don't think this is the greatest movie ever, but I enjoyed it. I was entertained, and I like the fact there's a lot more layers to it.
Yeah, definitely.
And
it's
I think
like,
that's
you can get more out of a movie that way, even if it doesn't blow your tits off, and it's like, whoa. If there's things to gnaw on, especially that stick with you, maybe the next time you go around and watch it, you'll have a better experience, or you'll enjoy it more.
What I've noticed as I've gotten older, man, is, and I guess that's after we talking about getting older, I think that one of the good things is I can, the 20-year-old Rick who would have watched this, or say whatever, even the 30-year-old probably wouldn't have saw this the same way. Now that I'm older and you experience more things and you're able to maybe sit back and kind of take a film for what it is. Not every film, because some of them just don't have any of those layers. I think that's what I do enjoy, is I see it from a different perspective. Like, how we were talking earlier about the whole social media thing. Like, I can somehow relate the two, and that's a good.
Yeah, you wouldn't have gotten that if you
never.
Saw that. It would have been about television, and you may not have. you may not have understood, and I wouldn't have the scope to where he was trying to get you to think where things could go. And now we're at that point where we realize, oh shit.
Yes.
Like, he was right. People like that are right. We should have been listening to people like that about the dangers of just mass media for a long time.
Dude, if I watched this in 83 or 84, I would have been like, whatever, man. I mean, and then now I am in 2022. I'm like, holy shit, he was he was right on the money on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what's crazy, man.
Oh, I love that line in the movie, too, from Professor Oblivion, where he says, because it's not his real name, and he says it's not his real name, it's his TV name, and he says maybe in the future everybody will have a TV name.
Yeah.
And that got me thinking about avatars and how everybody's in metaverse now, in a virtual world, and and that just allows people to just be assholes when you don't know who they are now.
Everyone
and
does.
Racist and just complete pieces of shit. And they may not be that in their real life, but they have this shield because you don't know who they are. It's
they
extension.
They hide behind this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what pisses me off, because a lot of people hide behind all these things, these personas, these made up names or whatever. And it's just like, man, come on. And that's the stuff that bothers me, man.
I think, like, I feel like there's a at some point that was a fun thing for people to be trolls and assholes, because they could hide behind it, and they can get away with it. But I think, too, on one hand, people took it too seriously. And so now you have this whole generation of people that might kill themselves because they were being harassed online.
Yes.
But and like, that's awful. And people's mental health, it goes farther than just media and social media. It has a lot to do with what's happening in the country and things. So
especially the last couple of years, man.
Yeah, and just where we're at as far as working class people, what we have to deal with. So I think it goes beyond that. But at the same time, it's like, if people didn't take virtual spaces so seriously, if they weren't so wrapped up in it as we are and dependent on it, then it wouldn't be the thing that drives people over the edge. They may have some other reason. It's usually underlying reasons, and that ends up being the thing that pushes them.
That's never going to happen. Never.
Well, I know. Well, now we're so entrenched in this stuff now.
The thing is, man, I mean, you're never going to. I mean, everyone's always going to have their own opinions, and someone's always going to get butthurt over something. It doesn't matter what it is. There are always haters out there, man. People hate and they hate, and it's just they don't realize what they say or do, and that affects the other people. I could have I could post something and someone could have their opinion, and I just let it go.
Yeah.
But then someone else could say something similar, and it's just, I don't know, it's just the way I take it or I react to it or whatever the damn word could be, and it throws me off, dude. What I find, this is what I do, and I know most people don't do this, whether I agree with you or not, you're entitled to your opinion. I take the high road, man. I take the high road all the time, because there's stuff.
Respond to anything.
I don't.
In virtual spaces.
Oh my God. I don't.
I remember feeling that need to, like, reading a comment section and seeing something that's just like, oh, and I have to respond to that. But we're at a point now where you read a comic section and it's just like, why would you, like, I would never respond to anything now. Like, either it's good or bad. It's like,
you can't,
and then
man.
You're giving into that. Yeah. You're becoming part of that thing, which is reactionary. And then it's like, it affects you. And it changes your moods. And either
dude, it really does, man. It really does.
Either your opinion is validated, which is a weird place because they're reinforcing something that's fake.
Yeah.
Or it's like you feel the need, like they've offended you, or you have to set them straight. It's like, just don't.
I just don't, dude. I don't.
Take yourself.
I can't tell you how often I see a post and I want to say something, but I'm like, well, why? I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
They feel that way, and that's okay. They are entitled to feel that way, to voice their opinion, to like something, to hate it.
It might not even be their opinion. That's the other thing. It's a virtual space.
I know.
You can say anything you want,
And then I look at sometimes I find myself just looking at people's comments going, God, how dare you? You should be ashamed of yourself. It's like, come on, man. I mean, like, is your life so bad or boring or uneventful that you have to do that? And it's just like, but man, everyone's different and everyone's entitled to their thing. I just wish people were more self-aware. Just be self-aware.
Sure, yeah.
You know, think about the repercussions before it, man. And I'm not saying everyone does it. I think it's a very small percentage of people that do it. Just be aware of it, man, because it's just not warranted. It just isn't, man.
Yeah.
You know? So if
Yeah.
anything, I mean, we could say right on. Cronenberg was definitely ahead of his, especially with the messaging here in this movie. Like it really was, man. He was ahead of his time. That's nearly 40 years ago, folks. You know, so and what's sad, Scott, is that we're 40 years have passed and we're still kind of in the same spot we were.
Yeah. Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
Yeah. Well, it got worse, maybe.
Yeah, we could argue that.
Yeah.
But, and I think that's what, I mean,
he was right on the money.
he was,
And
man.
when you talk about sex, violence, and media,
Absolutely,
all those three things,
dude. Absolutely.
we're talking about Pornhub and how kids, it's even way crazier than it was. People are desensitized to it.
It's become
There's
the
dangers of
norm,
it.
which just blows me away. It's just, it's so normal to people. Like,
Yeah,
huh? Like, I mean, what?
I don't want to be like the stickler guy.
Well, we're not.
But it's just there's a difference between like healthy versions of that stuff that's totally fine for people to explore on their own, but then the versions of it which causes people to have a skewed perception of what their relationship should be and what they should look for in like a significant other, and it gets all mixed up with people's heads.
Absolutely,
and
dude.
how they go about their interactions with people as far as dating and things.
Yeah.
Like that's
It really
danger,
does,
and there's
man.
a line there, and it's like our society has not figured out how on a personal level to go up to that line and explore things healthy as far as sex and violence and things, and then realize like what's harmful to yourself and not cross over that line.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's all personal,
And
because I don't
again,
think there
I
should
think-
be any laws against any of that
Oh
kind of
no,
stuff,
no,
but-
for sure, man. But I mean, that's what Cronenberg did here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he made us think about this, and here we are, 40 years later, and we're still kind of thinking about it and dealing with it, and what is reality? Because I mean, James Woods' character Max, I mean, he's hallucinating, and we could say, well, a lot of the stuff that we see constantly on our devices, that's most of it isn't real. It's
but it
just
becomes real because to you now
becomes to the viewers think it's real, and it's like, no, it has really kind of bent your perception on reality, and it's like damn, man. And
then with being in a bubble as people are, because you have so much choice over what you see now, so now your perception's changed. Now you have control over the next group of stuff that you see, and it's further takes you down into a place, and then it's a continual loop, and right on Cronenberg.
That's right, man. I mean, I will say he was right on the money on that, man. But yeah, that's Videodrome, man. Anything that we like? Did we miss anything? I thought we got I think we got the gist of it, right?
Yeah. I don't know if I have anything else to. I'm checking my notes.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I
have some loose notes. There's so much, and I think we talked about it a lot.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah. No. Pretty much. That's pretty much. I do love the tumor gun though.
The tumor
gun.
I like some of the effects, like the TV kind of breathing, the coming out. I mean, there are some cool effects here, and I didn't even realize Rick Baker did the effects on this. So, kudos to him, man. But I mean, some of it is just creepy and weird. But I mean, that was the idea. That's what Cronenberg tries to make you. He makes you feel unsettled, and and so. But yeah, man, I think that was it, dude. Appreciate you coming out. Man, I think next time you're going to come on out, we're going to do Psycho Gorman. Anyways, thanks again. And, everyone, take care. You listened all the way to the end. We appreciate that. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Ear for Fear Podcast, Twitter at Ear for Fear, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Ear for Fear Podcast. You can also check out our website, earforfear.com. There we list news and events. We're available on all the main platforms, so make sure you tell a friend. We hope you come back and get an earful.